Probably gonna get like a 3. He's definitely throwing him off with his left hand. You watch the hand that moves first, so he has a good tactic on that one. It comes out of the holster fairly smoothly, but that's the reason why it's coming out of the holster really smoothly is because it's a lowered holster. One of the reasons why his holster might be lower is gives him more options to move around. But his draw has no like accuracy form, so good thing the guy is only like a foot away from him. He is doing an all arm motion. There's no lock at all to it. And when he does that, if you notice, he butts down his wrist and he actually has his gun sort of tilted upwards. So when he goes to draw, he goes all arm and he butts it down. So with all shooting sports, it's actually very important to have strong wrists. I have incredibly strong wrists. So no matter how I fan, my wrist is always locked and firm. I'd probably rate it a 5 out of 10. It doesn't come out badly. He's not doing a lot badly. It's just that he doesn't have a lot of accuracy. It isn't the worst. It isn't the best. It's just mediocre. It is the safest gun sport in the world because we're shooting wax or black powder blanks. That's why we can shoot as fast as we can.
Oh my God, this is actually sick. I didn't realize. Did we ever watch this? No, I don't think we watched it.
No place to be right now, but in it.
But Fry the pig,
If they
Dr. King
is dead.
There is no one in the Black Panther Party who would have spoken to the chairman of the party that way, period. So that's number one. My name is Elaine Brown. I am a former leader of the Black Panther Party in the years 1974 to 1977. I've been asked to take a look at some Hollywood films where the Black Panther Party is depicted and to give my thoughts and a review of those films.
Oh, shit.
Shut that blonde man and get your white ass away from that window. Don't you know we in a war here?
Hey man, he's cool. He's cool. He's one of us.
Let me tell you about us.
What the hell? Everybody in America loves Forrest Gump. And so the shame of it is that this one encounter that Forrest Gump has is with this insane cult group of people that doesn't like white people. Well, of course, it was a caricature and it was certainly demeaning, not to count inaccurate. Well, nobody walked around wearing that stuff. Every once in a while, we'd have those rallies in the early days where people would wear, the black leather. And that was our sort of uniform. But nobody would be walking around the office with that clothing on.
The Black Panthers are against the war in Vietnam. Yes, we are against any war where black soldiers are sent to the front line to die for a country that hates them.
The Vietnam War was launched in 1965 by Lyndon Johnson. The party itself started in 1966. We were the only black organization that was actually a part of the anti-war movement. But then in my particular case in 1970, I visited Hanoi and other places and did a radio interview with a figure called Hanoi Hannah. And we urged our black brothers to throw down their weapons and come home.
Sorry, I had a fight in the middle of your Black Panther Party.
So to make light of it, to make a joke out of us, then we become a caricature and a joke. There's nothing you can say about it that's good at all as to what was the Black Panther Party in any depiction of it. And if you were to rank it, which, is just so typically American Western thinking that everything has to be ranked. But if you were to rank it, I don't think it's on the chart. It would be below 1.
There's no place to be right now, but in it.
But Fry the pig,
If they
Dr. King
is dead.
Bobby was very dynamic. Bobby still was the chairman and co-founder of the Black Panther Party. But I can tell you this, there is no one in the Black Panther Party who would have spoken to the chairman of the party that way, period. So that's number one. But I can't imagine anybody, any sister or brother, telling the chairman of the Black Panther Party what to do or not do.
I said it would be impossible for me to care any less what you are tired of, and I demand to cross-examine the witness.
And the fact that he would have spoken out in this style, it would have been absolutely true. There's no way you would have told Bobby not to speak up in the courtroom, because that was almost the style of the Black Panther Party, and not for arbitrary reasons. Don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to not follow their rules and so forth. We were pretty pissed off about it when Bobby was gagged and bound. He was treated so incredibly differently than the others. I thought it wasn't a bad film as a film because it was more in tune with the times.
We just need to make sure that Nixon Black Power doesn't equate Nixon with the Black Panthers.
Have you lost your mind, Matt? Did you read Hoover's last memo on that?
It's my subscription.
Goddamn terrifying. No. I gave him the green light to gut those sons of bitches.
I had forgotten about The Butler. I'd written that out of my memory because that was another one of those films I refused to see. Why don't we just put Aunt Jemima back on the pancake box or Uncle Ben back on the rice box, you know?
This time we take a stand against these injustices that have plagued our community. They take one of ours, we taking two of theirs.
If they kill one of us, we kill two of them. I mean, this kind of simple-minded rhetoric. This is not something anybody would have ever said. Why would we never have said it? Because it didn't make any sense. That didn't mean we wouldn't defend ourselves. But nobody's going out and saying, well, we're going to kill two of them for every one they kill and all this kind of stuff. And we're not going to allow the police to come to our communities and shoot people. We will move on them and we will do that. But that wasn't the essential thing.
This boy, we ain't seen this boy. We've seen this boy in over 7 years now. Everybody just sit
I'm
down.
sorry, Mr. Butler. I didn't mean to make fun of your hero.
Everything you are and everything you have is because of that Butler.
And now this wouldn't have happened in any.
Okay, this is officially my favorite fucking Business Insider video I've ever watched. This is literally the first fucking time where I've ever watched an insider video, like a Business Insider video.
Can I put a painting of you in the gallery with
and
my
it's
college?
fucking awesome.
Don't want to put it up without your permission.
She's so cool, dude. Literally, she's like, this is one of those movies that I refuse to fucking watch. It's really good.
Anybody's universe. Period. You hear me? The idea that this woman, Oprah, can play a role where she slaps a member of the Black Panther Party gives Hollywood and white people such comfort, knowing this isn't the way Black people are. We don't like them either. Not even now, we don't like them. We don't even like what they stood for. They were wrong. They were terrorists. They were killers. This man was a good, solid brother who took care of his family and didn't bother anybody. And he should have been respected by his disrespectful son who joins the Black Panther Party. It's just so shameful to try to show and to embrace the idea of the good Black versus the bad Black. And in this case, the bad Black.
This is
What's
so
the
good.
worst? Oh, Black Panthers. So the point is there are so many inaccuracies in this concept, not to count that the boy of that man was never in the Black Panther Party. But the main purpose of that stupid film was to elevate the role of the good servile Negro. Overall, pretty bad.
He's so good, dude. Oh my God.
I will learn all that I can.
The Black Panther Party Breakfast for Children program was not the centerpiece of the Black Panther Party, first of all. It was a tool.
The other important aspect that she referenced about the Black Panther Party's the Black Panther Party not being like an offensive military organization, but rather took up arms as a defensive position against like the violent police brutality that the Black communities are subjected to is also incredibly important as well, especially when considering, you know, it's kind of fucking cool of the Business Insider to do such a thing. I'm actually surprised that they would do this. This is like, aren't they kind of fucking lib? Like,
can I put a painting of you up in a gallery? Hassan don't want to put it up without your permission.
Sure,
Spend
you go ahead.
$20 just asking for permission, Gek.
Go ahead. This is fucking weird.
I'm sorry if you already covered this, but are you done W/GTARP?
God, dude, it's been a month and there's still motherfuckers that come in here with this shit. It's crazy. It's been a month, guys. Jesus Christ.
Tool of it, the ideological underpinning was to bring people together and to recognize that they had a right to eat, You have a right to food, and we still see that today. We talked about the right to medical care. We talked the right to food, clothing, all these things that right now are still a problem. So as a black person, when you look at this situation then,
the funniest thing is like the guys that say this shit like literally don't even watch anymore. Like they're the same ones who are like, yeah, I used to be a big Hassan fan, but like honestly, fucking started watching Grand Theft Auto Roleplay. Hassan got me into it, and now I don't even watch him anymore. And I just like watch other like GTRP players and other GTRP streams now. Like he got me into it, but like now I don't even watch him. It's like, why are you coming back, dude? You got a different outlet for entertainment.
as now, you find that we have the highest rate of prostate and breast cancer deaths in America. And then we said, well, people are dying because they have no access to even the most minimal medical care. And so we said, we have to put clinics up, but we have to show people that you have a human right to access to health care. And the reason we said free is because we wanted people to conceptualize the idea that in a humane society, we're not going to make people pay for those things that keep you alive. So I think that Fred Hampton recognized that because he was ideologically very strong, as I knew him, unlike the director of this film and his friend Ryan Coogler. I knew Fred Hampton, and I knew that he was very much ideologically aligned and understood the purpose of all of these programs. This is why the Chicago police would come in and assault our clinics, there in Chicago. They took some very heavy hits on breakfast programs and so forth. Because the fear of J. Edgar Hoover, which he stated openly, it wasn't that we had guns, or nobody was afraid of our guns. What did we have compared to the Chicago PD or the Illinois State Police that murdered Fred, or the United States Army, or the United States Navy, or the United States Marine Corps, or the United States Air Force, or the CIA, or the FBI, or the ATF, and all the other agencies of this government that are armed to the teeth? Now, the Black Panther Party did not represent a threat on the issue of guns. What was the threat that we represented? And we had an agenda to understand that the reason we remained oppressed in America was because there was this fundamental 400-year-old existing system that had oppressed us as a group in the beginning. And so therefore, the only way that we could be free was that this whole system had to be dismantled. Now, that's what we understood, and I absolutely know that Fred Hampton understood. So the limitation, the narrow, pathetic, two-dimensional characterization of Fred, that was nothing compared to who Fred Hampton was. To put Fred into any context with this piece of garbage.
Say my name, Pogo.
Dude, every fucking liberal depiction of the Black Panther Party, every liberal depiction of the Black Panther Party always, like, even the most, like, I guess, close to fucking reality that doesn't, like, outwardly fucking depict the Black Panther Party or its members as, like, villains, still refuse to feature a Marxist component. Like, any sort of, like, ideological depiction, any sort of like ideological
rise up, variety frogs rise up,
or depiction of like the Black Panthers is unacceptable. It has to be devoid of any sort of like materialist ideology. There's no goal here beyond just like black liberation on the purpose of black liberation on the sake of like being black.
It's not a weird painting. I posted it on Oak Buddy a while ago. It's the stencil painting of you in the checkered shirt with donkeys next to it. Thanks for responding to the TTS.
No problem.
Also, free Palestine hassle.
Good shit.
2 months, Pog.
The new Black Panther Party is bad, though? Well, yeah, it has nothing to do with the fucking old Black Panther Party. It's just like fucking CIA ops and like actors and shit that operate expressly at the purpose of making the legacy of the tarnishing the legacy of the Black Panther Party.
William O'Neill. And this guy was on the screen as much as Fred Hampton. So what you've done is make him like the other side of Fred Hampton. Like there's Fred Hampton, and then there's William O'Neill. William O'Neill had no such significance in the history of either the party or Black people. And this is so insulting to the history of Fred Hampton, much less the Black Panther Party, to equate these men as though they were two sides of the coin. You know, well, one turned out this way, one, no. This was a fight for Black people and our liberation. If you had been respectful of that history, then you might have shown more respect to not only Fred Hampton, but to the Black Panther Party.
We want full-fledged membership in the Black Panther Party, and none of that okay sugar, as long as you play the background, getting my beer and rubbing my feet bullshit either. You dig?
Those sisters standing there looking tough, we're gonna be at a party. Who the hell did that? Just downright silly. Nobody did that. And to make the point that women were equal, I mean, it just wasn't something that even came up. There were women in the Black Panther Party from day one. Erica Huggins was one of the first members in LA. And when I joined, she was my captain. So we had women in leadership almost from the beginning that I can recall. I don't know where that's coming from. And it's kind of insulting to both the men in the party and to the party's fundamental belief system and ideology.
Absolutely not. We hear this in a message. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense calls upon the American people in general and Black people in particular to take careful note of the racist California legislature now considering the Mulford Act.
And so this is the first and only time the National Rifle Association supported a gun control bill, which is very funny. So some Black people started talking about carrying guns, and all this was what is now called open carry, because at that time in California, you could carry a shotgun. That was part of our organizing, to say we have the right to bear arms. You want to say white people have the right to bear arms? So as soon as we assumed that Second Amendment right, as all of these organizations like to claim, all of a sudden we had to have gun control. So it was an impressive moment, and a lot of people were shocked by it, that Black people, not only that we had guns, but we were not there as thugs. We were there as with an ideological drive. As Huey Newton used to say, the gun is not necessarily revolutionary because the police have guns, so we know it's not a revolutionary act. But in this case, it's the ideology behind the gun, and that ideology is the championing of the right of self-defense under the larger agenda of seeking liberation for Black people. I love Jean Seberg, and I knew her very well, very well. I saw pieces of this stupid movie, but the scenes I saw were just so inaccurate and so disrespectful of Jean and who she was. Hollywood was a big supporter of the Black Panther Party. In our chapter in Southern California, we knew every Hollywood star, because at that moment we were the flavor of the year, you know. And one of our biggest supporters was a guy named Bert Schneider, who made a film called Easy Rider. And of course, Jane Fonda. So the LA chapter, we were sort of assigned to go and see her because this was money that could come into the Black Panther Party. That's why I know so much about Jean Seberg. I remember when ultimately my baby was born, she...
Hollywood used to be better, dude. I can't imagine a level of support that you could muster up in Hollywood similar to like the actual fucking radical anti-imperialist acts that Jane Fonda personally engaged in. I mean, she's a lib now in her older years, but like, to think about like, you know, gearing up and actually donating to the Black Panther Party. Jane Fonda supported Bernie last year. Yeah, well, I mean, she's still great. She just apologized for her actions in Vietnam. I'll never forgive Jane Fonda, brother. Fuck you. Oh, God damn it. Before I fucking forget, I gotta hit that fucking top of the hour. Top of the hour, every hour is a 6-second ad break, brother. Hold on now. Here it is. Okay.
Sent me a card and some baby clothes and stuff like this. She was a really genuinely decent and good person.
If bringing them here raises their profile and it draws attention to the cause, then I've done my job.
She said she wanted to support us, but she didn't want to be open about it because she felt that if she were, that she would never get work in Hollywood and that she would not be able to support us, therefore. And so she would give donations of $10,000 to $15,000, you know, which would go to up to Northern California and be spent on, you know, food, production of our newspaper, what have you.
They've tapped our phones in Los Angeles. They're listening. I can hear these little clicks on the line.
I mean, we were all aware that we assumed phones were being tapped. Nobody was unconscious,
Happy
but
2 years,
I don't think we understood the magnitude of what we were up against, which was the entire United States government. And there was a paranoia that, if you want to call it that, but, you know.
And now you know why Hollywood is not as woke. Just, you know,
paranoia.
That and money, but that too.
We're afraid of imaginary things. This was nothing imaginary in it.
Didn't Ayn Rand literally personally fucking
Their point was to discredit
rat
the
people
Black
out?
Panther Party. Jean was.
Didn't Ayn Rand like in the early days, like, wasn't she a part of the fucking snitches that would what was it called? What was the fucking list that they had? No, that was Reagan. No, Ayn Rand was a part of that too, right? During the Red Scare, they would out like communist sympathizers in the enemies list. Or the red list. Was it the black list? I don't know. Whatever. The fucking list.
Certainly, you know, collateral damage, a casualty. I don't think this film in any way gives credibility to Jean's commitment to the ideals that the party espoused. That's why I have problems with these films. It's because that even though they get Black people to sort of take over the film, the Black Panther Party remains demonized.
Bro, she's literally mad, rightfully so, that every fucking Black Panther depiction, even if it's like supposed to be kind, still completely glances over the ideological underpinnings of the Black Panther Party. Because emotional terrorism incoming. No, stop linking me fucking emotional terrorism videos and other shit, okay? I'm still eating. She's awesome.
Mischaracterized in the public imagery that Hollywood produces.
It's great. Celebrity bodyguard rates 10. Ancient warfare expert, ex-mob boss. We already seen that. Former KGB, we've seen that a lot. Military historian, we've seen that. Historian reviews civil rights movements in film. Wait.
Gary, that's enough, man! Gary, that's enough! That is so hard to watch. In the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd in 2020 in Minneapolis, Do the Right Thing took on a new significance as people looked back at the scene involving Radio Raheem. In our contemporary moment where we're in the midst of a national Black Lives Matter movement, fundamentally the question is, what is a Black life worth? Hi, I'm Yahuwah Williams, an author, activist, and historian, and today I'll be reviewing the history of the struggle for Black equality through the lens of African American movies. This scene is from Selma, directed by Ava DuVernay in 2014. In this scene, Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife Coretta talk about the emotional toll the movement is having on their marriage and their lives.
What I've never gotten used to is the death, the constant closeness of death.
Ava DuVernay imagines this conversation between King and Coretta that is not only dealing with marital infidelity, but the real sense of danger that accompanied the work of civil rights activists like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. When Dr. King and Coretta Scott King were receiving these types of death threats, this was something that was clearly a strain on their marriage, a strain on their relationship, and in some sense, a strain on the work. Coretta is supportive in the sense that she shares with Dr. King, she shares with Martin, her desire to see the movement be successful. And yet at the same time, there's this concern for her family, for her husband.
People actually say that they will stop the blood running through the hearts of our children.
This scene captures the complexity of something that would have played out in the homes of civil rights activists throughout the movement, where they're confronting the real possibility of death that came with pushing for first-class citizenship for African Americans. So the fear and trepidation that Coretta Scott King had about her husband wasn't only related to threats of violence, it actually came from instances of violence. There is the strain that comes from the danger. That's not just his burden to take on, it was also the burden of his family and certainly the burden of Coretta Scott King. And she was a partner in every way, not only as a spouse, but also as the mother of his children, and someone who was a confidant, someone who King could rely on for advice and also just for comfort and understanding. At the same time, we don't want to diminish the role of women in the movement as a whole. They weren't just wives and mothers to activists. They were also on the front lines of many campaigns.
What's the FBI's current information on Martin Luther King? I heard he was assaulted in Selma.
The FBI's counterintelligence program, or COINTELPRO, began in the mid-1950s and continued until 1972, when it was discovered by virtue of a break-in at Media, Pennsylvania, which revealed the secret and illegal effort by the FBI to go after its political enemies.
Illegal.
The FBI essentially targeted not only violent organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan, but also Black organizations such as the NAACP,
FBI.
Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and activists in other more radical Black organizations such as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and later the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. This is Judas and the Black Messiah, released in 2021 and directed by Shaka King. In this scene, you see Fred Hampton and the origins of the Rainbow Coalition.
I'm not talking about the west side or the south side. I'm talking this filthy ass motherfucker right here. Shit. We almost got into it with a rat over a parking space.
Uh-oh. After seeing the Black Panther lady just like absolutely fucking destroy this, I'm a little worried.
I bet y'all babies getting the same bullshit education. Y'all paying the same taxes to get your heads whooped in by the same motherfucking pigs. Ain't that a trip? We pay them, huh? We pay the pigs to run us off of our corners.
This scene is fictionalized, but the words are very accurate in terms of what Fred Hampton was attempting to build as head of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Fred Hampton recognized that it was going to be incumbent on the Black Panther Party to organize all elements within the city of Chicago to undermine not just simply racial discrimination, but economic inequality.
I need everybody to repeat after me. I am a revolutionary. I am.
It's the most like non-Marxist way to approach it, so
A revolutionary.
it's good. But
At 20 years old, and as a former organizer for the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Fred Hampton was an organic intellectual who had read widely and deeply understood the need for coalition building in terms of advancing civil rights for African Americans. He recognized that in the African American community, it would be important to reach out not only to civil rights leaders, but also to local gangs who could then help to organize the city, support those social programs, and promote equality. He also recognized that they needed to create coalitions and alliances with other organizations. And this included poor whites and Latinos.
The Black Panthers, the Young Lords, and the Young Patriots are forming a rainbow coalition of oppressed brothers and sisters of every color.
And it's this coalition of these groups that becomes the foundation of this idea that you could build a political alliance based on diverse peoples who are suffering from similar concerns and build that into a political juggernaut that could ultimately serve the needs of those communities most impacted by economic inequality and racial injustice. The Panthers were unique in that, in articulating their intention to police the police, they had stoked this fear about Black retaliatory violence, and they were painted as a reverse Ku Klux Klan. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. But the FBI focused on this notion of the Black Panthers as the advance guard of what they called a Mau Mau in America, a coming Black revolution. And it became part of this apocalyptic vision that was floated by the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. You see that in the FBI's counterintelligence program, but you also see it in the language of Director Hoover toward the Black Panther Party, calling them at one point the single greatest threat to the internal security of the United States.
I want him off the street. Charge him with something, anything, but
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
get his black ass off the street.
And this is
Unfollowed, you Zionist? What? Free Palestine, down with Zionism, free Palestine, free Palestine. Can you talk about what's happening in Jerusalem? Why are you not fasting, bro? You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get killed. Not a threat. Someone's gonna kill you. Bro, they're gonna kill you if you don't stop. Be careful. Dudes, people who always speak the truth get killed. I'm scared for you. You have to stop. Get help. Seriously. I hope you do.
where the use of informants becomes a major problem.
George Sams, security captain for the New Haven chapter. Pardon the paranoia.
Hey, we got a rat, man.
What?
They smoked one out in
How?
New Haven.
How? They put a squeeze on that motherfucker. We held a trial first. Oh shit, where he at now? He's at the bottom of the river with the rest of the trash.
In New Haven, Connecticut, it will be an FBI-identified informant, a gentleman by the name of George Sams, who will direct the torture and murder of a New York Panther named Alex Rackley. George Sams then, in flight from New Haven, will go to Chicago, Illinois, where he'll be held under house arrest by William O'Neill, himself an informant for the FBI. The FBI then will use Sam's flight from New Haven as pretext to raid Black Panther Party offices all across the country, setting into motion a deadly series of encounters which will culminate in the pre-dawn raid on Fred Hampton's apartment in December of 1969, which will result in the murders of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. This is Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee in 1992. In this scene, Malcolm addresses America's racial explosion before introducing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
So what we're listening to would be a speech typical of what Malcolm would have delivered. At the same time, it also gives you some sense of Malcolm's own political ideology in the way that he would have framed the difference between what the Nation of Islam was attempting to do and what the Civil Rights Movement was attempting to do. In fact, we often associate Malcolm as one of the early leaders of the Black Power movement, which was this parallel movement to the Civil Rights.
Is it good? I've never seen this movie
already.
Like these best? I mean, a Black Klansman wasn't good, or it was good, but it wasn't like historically accurate, and definitely gave cops like a very positive outlook, despite their
Yo.
Dude, you need to watch this, dude. White Take? Wait, about Black Klansmen? You think my take about Black Klansmen, because it approached policing in America in a positive light, when literally during that time, cops were infiltrating the Ku Klux Klan and not harming them at all, while simultaneously literally fucking participating in the murder of black activists? That's the white take, you dumb fuck? You might be black yourself, but maybe you should fucking educate yourself on the history of your movement. This motherfucker just said white take.
Hassle.
God damn, dude.
Rights movement. Really a movement with no name until it's named in 1966 after the Meredith March Against Fear, and the media labels what Stokely Carmichael is doing as Black Power. It's this idea that African Americans should push for Black self-determination, that they should have a separate homeland, that they should, in some sense, seize the opportunity to create for themselves.
Black people are dissatisfied. They're dissatisfied not only with the white man, but with these Uncle Tom Negro leaders that are trying to pose as spokesmen for you and I. Just like you have.
Malcolm was a fiery orator, and if he turned his, fiery rhetoric on you, you were not going to be spared. There are certainly many African American leaders in that time who were victims of Malcolm's, kind of fiery rhetoric. One of them was Jackie Robinson, who Malcolm X described as Branch Rickey's boy. Martin Luther King was another leader that Malcolm kind of turned his attention to. Those people who were trying to gain civil rights by adjusting their tone to liberal whites, which Malcolm believed ultimately would not produce the change necessary in order to ensure equality for African Americans, for Black people.
If the so-called Negro in America was truly an American citizen, we wouldn't have a racial problem. If the Emancipation Proclamation was authentic, we wouldn't have a race problem. If the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution were authentic, we wouldn't have a race problem. If the Supreme Court desegregation decision were authentic, we would not have a race problem.
Malcolm was skeptical. He questioned whether Black leaders really were going to be able to achieve this grand agenda by constantly framing this in terms of past efforts that it failed, primarily because they were operating not from a position of strength, but from a position of weakness.
Black people should realize that freedom is something that they have when they're born. And anyone who stands in their way of freedom is their enemy.
One of the things that's great that Spike Lee captures in this scene is the fact that part of the way that the Nation of Islam wanted to set itself apart was the way that...
Dude, shut the fuck up! Shut up! Jesus Christ, dude! Shut up!
Members of the Nation of Islam dressed. And you see this in...
If you think I'm being, like, over the top, okay, if you think I'm being over the top, like, I will literally pull this person's fucking... What is it? Eyeball 223? Here, look at this, dude. Look at this. Look.
Peepo pog wow.
Dude, shut up, dude. Shut up. You just, like, nonstop spamming it, dude. Fucking Christ. I don't give a shit about your own personal, like, fucking Israel sympathizer guy. Okay? Shut up. God damn, dude. I know I got new followers, but, like, chill the fuck out.
And the representation of women with wrapped heads and the garments they wore. You see this in the suits that the men wore. What the Nation of Islam wanted to do was to create this identity for African Americans outside of the identity associated with the American Negro. And so therefore, this included a whole creation mythology that existed outside the confines of Christianity. It positioned Africans as the original man and African Americans as inheritors of that. Black Asiatics who had a separate identity, a proud history, and a proud culture, which needed to be elevated. And that was expressed in the garments that they wore, the way that they greeted each other, and it was part of the culture and the fabric of that movement. This is the Netflix miniseries, When They See Us, directed by Ava DuVernay in 2019. In this scene, 4 out of the 5 accused teenagers meet each other in a New York City holding cell.
I lied to you, man. I'm sorry.
We see 4 of the 5 teenagers who ultimately would become known as the Central Park Five meeting for the first time in a holding cell and realizing how they've been railroaded into confessing to this attack. You think about these juvenile suspects and how they were treated by the NYPD in 1989, and it literally is a roadmap to all the problems that we talk about today that are so evident in our criminal justice system.
Kevin Richardson said you raped a lady in the park.
What?
No,
Wait a minute. Wait a second. That is not possible. This is my son.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
What are we
Kevin
talking
says it did. Wait. Who's Kevin?
They were, for example, interrogated without their parents being present or without counsel being present.
Is my mom here?
She left. She wasn't feeling well.
Which is a violation of their civil rights. They were beaten and coerced into making confessions. They were promised things, certainly by their interrogators, that weren't true.
You tell the truth, we clear things up, we send you home, okay?
They were tricked by subterfuge in the case of one into going down to the police precinct with a friend under the assumption that he was there to lend moral support, when in fact he was a suspect and ultimately ended up being charged with the crime.
I just came to look after Yusef. Yusef is not here. You are alone with this in here.
You know, this is storytelling, and it's a mini-series, and so decisions have to be made about what's emphasized. And I think some of those decisions by Ava DuVernay were brilliant because they connect what happened in 1989 to our contemporary moment. For example, demonstrating the violence against trans people in that moment, which was really hidden.
What are you fighting about now?
Your brother belongs in a crazy house. Your brother wants to be your sister. Your fucking sister. You, boy, you crazy. You're sick.
I'm leaving.
At the same time, there are elements of the story which are dealt with, which are magnified in our contemporary moment. Donald Trump's 1989 ad, for example, calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty and bringing back the police in the context of this case was devastating. What the exonerated 5 were up against was the sense that somehow everything that was said about them by the police could be believed because these were stereotypes about African Americans that had become deeply ingrained in the American psyche. But more importantly, what's powerful about this film is that it puts the system on trial. Everything from the police to the prosecutors to the prisons are called into question in the way that these young men were treated. And ultimately, it's an opportunity for us to revisit in our contemporary context why so many conversations today around defunding the police, for example, exist because they connect us with this much longer, much darker history. This scene is from 2013's 42, directed by Brian Hegelin. In this scene, Jackie Robinson.
I wish, yeah, so one chatter pointed this out, and it's true. This one's not as good as the other one because, like, he's basically not calling into question the validity of the scenery or anything like that, but instead simply just talking about the scenes and like providing historical context for it.
Robinson deals with the racism from an opposing team.
Hey, nigga, I know you can hear me. You know what you're here for, don't you? Huh? You're here to get the nigger dollars for Ricky at the gate.
The film, as great as it is, perpetuates some myths of its own. It is not an entirely accurate representation of Jack's experience, but it's good. And it does introduce some important moments for us to consider with regard to Jack's historic breaking of the color barrier in sports and some of the challenges that he faced. And in this scene, we witness the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies hurling racial epithets at Jack to try to rattle him. And in the process, it leads to the confrontation that we witness here, where some of Jack's teammates speak up in defense of him.
You shut your mouth, or I shut it for you.
Is that true?
This is an interesting take on.
Did this happen? Or did they fucking plant a white savior in here?
Because in many ways, not all of Jack's teammates actually supported him. In fact, some even tried to force the Dodger management to remove Jack from the team even before this experiment had a chance to take off. But in this moment, some of Jack's teammates were so disgusted by what they saw through this display of Ben Chapman that they elected to challenge him, including calling out the manager for his raucous display and treatment of Jack Robinson, who everyone knew couldn't defend himself. There are controversies about whether Jack's teammates actually supported him in visible ways. One of the most celebrated involves whether Pee Wee Reese actually put his arm around Jack on the field of play in one particular occasion. And that has now been debunked by historians and documentary makers like Kim Burns, who say there's no evidence to support this. At the same time, we can still see Jack's story as a story of triumph, and we can celebrate the courage and fortitude he displayed, not only on the field of play, but also off the field.
Listen, motherfucker, it's literally illegal, okay? It is illegal to make a movie about black people without at least having a white savior type. Do you understand? They will literally, they'll throw you in jail, dude. It is illegal. Some may think it's like a trope, right? It's not just a trope. It's at gunpoint. They're holding scriptwriters at gunpoint. Where is the positive white character that comes in and saves the fucking day?
To bring a dignity and a purpose to the work of integrating baseball. To that, we owe him a great debt, even if the movie isn't entirely accurate. This is Black Klansman, directed by Spike Lee in 2018. In this scene, Ron cold calls the KKK and disguises his voice.
Every time I think about that black baboon putting his filthy black hands on her purest
He was great in this movie. He was good in Tenet too, but
white-driven snow body. I mean pure, Walter. She's a saint. She's an angel. It makes me want to puke.
You are just the kind of guy that we are looking for. Listen,
movie's not great though.
When can you meet?
I mean, movie's
How about
like
Friday
fun,
night after
but
I
it's
get off
not
work?
like.
That's a deal, buddy boy. We'll get right back to you with the details. Take care now.
God bless white America.
While this scene is great for cinematic purposes, the actual story behind this is a little different.
Yeah.
Ron Stallworth actually sent a letter to the Ku Klux Klan through a P.O. box and then was surprised a few weeks later when he actually got a call from the local Klan offices. Other than that, the movie also takes liberty with some of the timelines and some of the plot points, concocting a girlfriend for Ron that he meets in attending a Stokely Carmichael rally, and certainly some of the other plot points related to the planned bombing that Ron and his colleagues thwart at the end of the movie. Ron points out in the book, it wasn't solely the Klan that they targeted, it was other white extremist groups that were operating in that period as well. And they were successful while not stopping a bombing, which was not something that the Klan was plotting in that moment, but some cross burnings and some other forms of what Ron called domestic terrorism that would have been nonetheless frightening to those people who would have been subjected to that type of terror. But for the most part, is a pretty good representation of Ron Stallworth's experience with the Ku Klux Klan, at least in some of the interactions in the early part of the movie. So, did Ron actually disguise his voice in talking to the Ku Klux Klan?
I guess I'm wrong, boys.
That part is true. And yet at the same time, Ron admits that it was also some of his supervisors in the department who raised the issue of race here.
They're going to know the difference between how a white man talks and a Negro.
How exactly does a black man talk?
You know what I'm trying to say.
Chief, some of us can speak King's English, others speak jive. Ron Stallworth here happens to be fluent in both.
And so as one of the first African-American police officers in the Colorado Springs Department, and even as he was doing this investigation into the nation's oldest and largest racial terrorist organization, Ron was fighting stereotypes within his own department.
1, 2, 3.
Jesus H. Christ! What the hell did you just do?
Sir, if you lay a finger on me, I'll arrest your ass for assaulting a police officer.
The fact that Ron Stallworth actually was successful in fooling David Duke, the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, the leader of an organization whose very ideology is based on this belief that inherently different physical characteristics that divide the races, speaks to the foolishness of that as a concept, but also underscores the importance of recognizing the complexity of the human experience. This film is Do the Right Thing, directed by Spike Lee in 1989. This scene shows the brutal death of Bill Nunn's character, Radio Raheem, at the hands of the NYPD.
Get the fuck out there, Dave! Get up, asshole! Keep thinking it! Get up, asshole! Get up!
One of the great things about this scene is that it captures the complexity of race relations in New York City in 1989. And although it's fictitious, it speaks to some of the real tensions that were permeating New York society and American society in that moment. In fact, you get this from the opening of the film and the wonderful theme song penned by the rap group Public Enemy with the lyric, 1989, the number. Another summer. That's a throwback to this idea of the long, hot summers of the 1960s, the late 1960s, where American cities, one by one, erupted in violence over incidents of police brutality. It is this idea that there are these tensions that exist in the community over issues of police brutality and the policing of Black and brown bodies in those spaces that are exacerbated by this both love and hate relationship with people of color. There's also the backdrop of a controversial maneuver that had been used by police departments in cities across the country, and that was the chokehold. The chokehold had become controversial because of the number.
Wow, good thing we really updated. Good thing we updated police brutality, and and then David Guetta dropped the song and defeated racism in its entirety, and now we have none of it. There's no more. There's no more racism remaining. They're all out. Oops, went to the store. No more racism. No more police brutality.
Of Black and Latino suspects who had died in custody of police by virtue of having these chokeholds applied. The most infamous case in New York comes in September of 1983 with the killing of Michael Stewart, a young model who is accused by New York City Transit Police of putting graffiti on a wall. He's subsequently manhandled by these officers, and in a 32-minute encounter, literally from the time that he is identified as...
How much do your meals cost? Like, I think around $9, maybe $10. I go and I purchase all the chicken and stuff ahead of time.
So allegedly putting this graffiti on the wall. He's transported to Bellevue Hospital. Michael Stewart was subjected to inhuman, cruel treatment. Choked, beaten while handcuffed, hog-tied, and later Spike Lee would acknowledge that the Michael Stewart case was really the inspiration for what happened to Radio Raheem. It's also really important to note that in the aftermath of the murder of...
Wait, I never watched this movie either, but is there a particular reason why all the cops are dressed like they're male strippers? It was a hot summer day in the 80s and the... Hello, Fiona. Fiona's here. Hi. Hello, milady. Hello. I think the era of causality goes the other way around.
George Floyd in 2020 in Minneapolis. Do the Right Thing took on a new significance. The scene involving Radio Raheem reminded people in a very powerful way of what we all witnessed in looking the almost 9 minutes of footage associated with the killing of George Floyd. In a scene which unfortunately is all too common in American society and culture. Movies are meant to entertain us, to inspire us to think about the possibilities that exist in worlds where we don't have access. And that's a great way to think about cinema. But when we're talking about historical pictures, sometimes we're looking for a more accurate portrayal of the past, which is a lot to ask of the filmmaker. What if we view movies as an opportunity or as a first step into deeper knowledge, the books, the articles, the lectures that can really help
That's just how they look.
us expand our knowledge of
That's
the
just
past.
how cops look like in the 80s.
That's an incredible way to think about cinema as an opportunity for us to build the foundations for a just democracy. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
They weren't thumbs yet? I don't fucking know. Were they? Were cops not thumb-like back in the day or something? Is that... I feel like they were always thumbs, dude. That betrays the thumb phrenology that I believe in. The cop phrenology that I believe in, so I refuse to believe it. How about that? All right. I got like actual fucking weirdos asking for LSF, so here it is. Kit Boga and Poke completely losing it while scam baiting.
Do you just tell your grandson to just go and play?
Wait. Is Kit Boga in Austin or something?
And just I'll guide you for the cancellation, okay?
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Aaron, why don't you just sit right here and play your game? And if I need you,
No! Hey! No! Hey! Not like that, young man!
Hello? Hello?
No! Stop! Stop!
I'm sorry about my grandson.
It's okay. Do you just tell your
This is awesome. This is Kit Boga. He scams scammers basically.
I still appreciate Hassan. You know, Hassan is a homie. He really is.
Wait, why are you showing me?
Think about when Hassan was on my show, you know? He knew the yay or nay thing was happening in his chat, and the fact that he went out, that shows me that he's a friend, you know? Like a legit friend.
We saw this yesterday.
Cares about my show and the integrity of it. and that meant a lot to me. I don't think he realized that when he did that. It meant a lot to me because I knew people were cheating already. And when Hassan came out and he's like, man, you know...
Is there a particular reason why you're showing me this? We saw this yesterday. I saw it. Undeniable proof of Andrea cheating. Oh my God. In Andrea's VOD, we can clearly see the moment when she cheated by looking at chat, judging by the reflection of the light on Andrea's glass and the geometric angle of her retinas pointing exactly into 39. This is it's sarcasm, dude. Holy shit. Andrea, you have 2 yul. Bro, what the fuck? It got me. Like, I thought people were like actually this serious about the cheating stuff. Tyler and grandson fighting.
Okay, what do I do now? Can you just give me my money back? I don't. Oh God.
Someone is shouting.
Go get.
Yo, what the fuck do you want?
Oh my
What do you
God,
want?
Tyler, calm down, young man.
I'm fucking busy. What do you want? Leave me alone.
I'm sorry about him. I'm sorry about him. He's built.
Who is he?
I'm watching my grandkids today. I don't normally.
Quit fighting, you two.